Good morning. How are you this lovely Saturday? It is the 23rd of March, almost the end of March. Can you believe it, folks? It's hard to believe this year is just passing by so quick. We're in the third month, fixing to go into April. Spring is on us and going. And Los Angeles today, I wish I could say it was beautiful weather, the Golden Coast sun, but it's raining, which is good. We need the rain. California's, at least here in Los Angeles, it kind of doesn't get that much rain uh, in recent years, anyway. So I wanted to kind of say that this is the 20th podcast of the Roman Forum series, and this will be the conclusion of the Roman Forum series. Been trying to think about what would we do going forward. The most logical thing would be to just kind of branch out from the Roman Forum, and so since this video today kind of follows the previous video, again, they kind of overlap each other. There is one branch that I'll show you. I think what we'll do is kind of segue off of the Julius Caesar. He was not really a emperor of sorts at the time since he was assassinated. He was more of a dictator title. And so, anyway, he was assassinated in the Curia of Pompeii, of the theater of Pompeii, where the Senate generally had meetings when there was, for temporary, when work was being done on a building or something where they were congregating. So they would always kind of go over to the theater of Pompeii. And, I guess because they had room. And anyway, I think we'll segue off of the Roman Forum and hop over to Pompeii. And there's a lot of historical stuff related to Pompeii. It was destroyed, I think, 79 AD by the volcano Vesuvius. And yeah, so I think that's what we'll do is segue off. So let's go ahead and, for this last Roman Forum, go ahead and look at the video. Again, I'll catch you on the other side.
Replace Faustus Cornelius Sulla's reconstructed Curia Cornelia, which itself had replaced the Curia Hostilia. Caesar did so to redesign both spaces within the Comitium and the Roman Forum. The alterations with the Comitium reduced the prominence of the Senate and cleared the original space. The work, however, was interrupted by Caesar's assassination at the theater of Pompeii, where the Senate had been meeting temporarily while the work was completed. The project was eventually finished by Caesar's successor, Augustus Caesar, in 29 BC. The Curia Julia is one of only a handful of Roman structures that still survives mostly intact because of its conversion into the Basilica of Sant'Andriano al Foro in the 7th century and several later restorations. However, the roof, the upper elevations of the sidewalls, and the rear facade are modern and date from...
All right. So that was the Curia of Julia. If you remember from the last time, Curia is really means where the Senate is, congregates, so, or Senate House. So let me pull up there we go. This is the building that we're talking about. And by the way, you see there's another building right beside it. We had a discussion, I forgot the name of it, sorry. But I'll show you real quickly is it? Nope. Oh, here it is. There we go. let me turn that off. In that previous picture, the Curio Giulio is the one on the right, and I forgot the name of this building. Sorry. But I just realized that these two buildings were connected back in the day of ancient Rome by this porch, I guess, right there, and with the columns. And so when I went back and looked at the building behind that, I noticed those holes in there below the windows, and I'm guessing that that's where that front porch area kind of front was attached to. That and there's a similar one on the other side. So I just realized that those two buildings were connected, and that was a few minutes ago. So anyway, let's see. Go ahead and turn that the 3D model on. So I'll go ahead and do our reading. The Curia Julia is the third named Curia or Senate house in the city of Rome, ancient city of Rome. It was built in 44 BC when Julius Caesar replaced Faustus Cornelius Sallus reconstructed Curia Cornelia, which itself had been replaced by the Curia of Hostilia. Caesar did so to redesign both spaces with the Comitium and the Roman Forum. The alterations within the Comitium reduced the prominence of the Senate and cleared the original space. The work, however, was interrupted by Caesar's assassination at the Curia of Pompey of the Theater of Pompey, where the Senate had been meeting temporarily while that work was completed. The project was eventually finished by Caesar's successor, Augustus Caesar, in 29 BC. So yeah, so we'll continue to follow the Roman Forum. We'll move out of the Roman Forum and move over to the Curia Pompey of the Theater of Pompey in Pompeii, where it used to be. It probably was multi-purpose building if it was a theater of Pompey, but it also housed temporary quarters of the Senate. All right. The Curia Julia is one of a handful of Roman structure that still survives today, mostly intact, and this is primarily due to its conversion into the Basilica of San Adriano al Foro in the 7th century and several later restorations. However, the roof and the upper elevations of the side walls and the rear facade are modern and date from remodeling of the consecrated church in the 1930s. History. There were many curia during the Curia Senate houses. There were many curias during the history of the Roman civilization, many of them existing at the same time. Curia means simply meeting house. While the Senate met regularly at the Curia within the Comitium space, there were many other structures designed for it to meet when the need occurred. An example meeting with someone who was not allowed to enter sanctified curias of the Senate. The Curia Julia is the third named curia within the Comitium. Each structure was rebuilt a number of times, but originated from a single Etruscan temple built to honor the truce of the Sabine conflict. When the original temple was destroyed, Tullus Hostilius rebuilt it and gave it his name. It lasted for a few hundred years until the Curia was destroyed by fire from the impromptu funeral of Publius Claudius Pulcher. A new structure was dedicated to its financial benefactor, Faustus Cornelius Sulla. In fact, the structure now in the Roman Forum, is the second incarnation of Caesar's Curia from 81 to 96 AD. The I guess so, yeah, AD. The Curia Julia was restored under Domitian. In 283 AD, it was heavily damaged by fire at the time of Emperor Quirinus. From 284 to 305, the Curia was then rebuilt by Diocletian. It is the remnants of Diocletian's building that stands today. In 412 AD, the Curia was restored again, this time by urban prefect Annius Eucharius Epiphanius. On July the 10th, 1923, the Italian government acquired the Curia Julia and the adjacent convent of the Church of Esandrino from the Collegia di Spagna, which I guess is a college of Spagna, for approximately 16,000 liras. Description. The exterior of the Curia Julia features a brick faced concrete, as you can see in the picture on the right there, with a huge buttress at each angle. The lower part of the front wall was decorated with slabs of marble. The upper part was covered with stucco imitation of white marble blocks. A single flight of steps leads up to the bronze doors. The current bronze doors are modern replicas. The original bronze doors were transferred to the Basilica of St. John Lateran by Pope Alexander VII in 1660 AD. A coin was found within the doors during their transfer that allowed archaeologists to date the repairs made to the Senate House and the addition of the bronze doors to the reign of Emperor Domitian in 81 to 96 AD. The original appearance of the Senate House is known from an Emperor Augustus Denarius of 28 BC, which shows the veranda held up by columns on the front wall of the building. So yeah, that porch thing I was talking about is called a veranda, held up by columns, and that was on the front wall of the building where you see those holes. The interior of the Curia Julia is fairly austere. The hall is 25.2 meters long by 17.61 meters wide. Let me go ahead and show that. One moment. Okay, there's that. And nope, that's the bronze doors right there. Inside. There's the inside of the Curia Julia. So it says and you can tell the interior Curia Julia is fairly austere. The hall is 25.2 meters long by 17.61 meters wide. There are 3 broad steps that could have fitted 5 rows of chairs, or a total of about 300 senators. I guess that's to the left there. The walls are stripped, but were originally veneered in marble 2/3 of the way up. Okay. The 2 main features of the interior of the Curia Julia are its altar of victory and its striking floor. I think the altar of victory is that in the back with that red statue. At the far end of the hall can be found the altar of victory. It consisted of a statue of Victoria, the personification of victory, standing on a globe. It's standing a wreath. The altar was placed in the Curia by Augustus to celebrate Rome's military prowess, more specifically his own victory at the Battle of Actium in 31 BC. The altar was removed in 384 AD as a part of a general backlash against the pagan traditions of ancient Rome after the rise of Christianity. The other main feature of the Curia's interior is the floor. As you can see, it's very ornate, beautiful. And the floor is in contrast to the building's colorless exterior. Featured on the floor is the Roman art technique of opus sectile, in which the materials are cut and inlaid into the walls and floors to make pictures of patterns. That is described by Claridge as stylized rosettes in squares alternate with opposed pairs of entwined cornucopias in rectangles, all worked in green and red porphyry on backgrounds of Numidian yellow, Phrygian purple. I think that was probably pretty beautiful at the time. In Res Gestae Divi Augustus writes of the project, I built the Senate House with the power of the state entirely in my hands by universal consent. I had extinguished the flames of the civil wars and then relinquished my control, transferring the republic back to the authority of the Senate and the Roman people. For this service, I was named Augustus by decree of the Senate. In fact, the relinquishment of power was truer in word than in deed. The construction of the Curia Julia coincided with the end of the Roman Republic in Rome. In the past, the Curia Hostilia and Comitium were oriented by cardinal points of the compass, which may have marked them out as specifically irrigated space. At any rate, set them off obliquely from the forum rectangle that had formed over the centuries. Breaking with the tradition, the Curia Julia was reoriented by Julius Caesar on more rational lines, squaring it up with the rectangular lines of the forum, and even more closely with this new forum, to which the new Senate House formed an architectural appendage more in keeping with the Senate's increasing subordination. The reduced power of the Roman Senate during the imperial period is reflected by Curia Julia's less prominent location orientation. Still, the two buildings had similarities. Both the Curia Hostilia's Tabula Valeria and the Curia Julia's Altar of Victory in the Curia Julia attest to the enduring preeminence of Rome's military despite the reduced role of the Senate. All right. That's the inside. What I'll do is I'll show some more images of the Curia. So this is a distant side view there, and you can see the side and the back of it. And then this is a closer up side view where you can see the front. Looked to be a pretty tall building. Yeah. This is a 3D model again, and that's the veranda that we were talking about, where it was apparently attached to the two buildings. So this was the Senate House on the right and a basilica on the left. Wow. Isn't that beautiful? Show the map. So if you're wanting to know where it is on the map, so if you look to the lower right there, circle, that's the Colosseum. So then you kind of go slightly northeast. This is walkable. It's just you just like across the street and go into almost like a park now and see all the buildings. It's between the Via Sacra Road and the Via Dia Fori Imperelli Road. So yeah, and it's on the opposite end in the Roman Forum there, and you can see the building there. So that's kind of where it's located. Now going forward, this will be the last uh, podcast on the Roman Forum. Uh, Hope you enjoyed it. I did learn a lot on it. I mean, I have a minor in history, but that was a long time ago when I was in college. So if you, I'm an engineer, work special operation projects, and so I haven't really used a history degree, although there is some usefulness of history in activities that I do. You can kind of understand the culture and things and how uh, military side of things on there. But anywho, so what we're going to do next week on the podcast, we're going to move to the theater, Pompeii. I'll show a picture of that. There you go. So that's what it looked like, and it was obviously a very large building. I would just looking at it from similarity, it might have been that backspace building might have been where the Senate was there. I'm not sure of that though, but it's a very ornate, beautiful building. So we'll pick up there next week, and whoops, whoops, where did I get? And then we'll also, my goodness. Start with Julius Caesar. So he was assassinated at that theater of Pompeii. So we'll talk about him as well. So I think going forward, we'll still do Roman history for a while. It's not the intent. It's not the intent to always do history, but it seems like it would make sense just to kind of if you've been talking about the Roman Forum here, just kind of spread it out a little bit. And we could talk about the Colosseum and some other things that happened in ancient Rome. Um, Maybe some other places that were important to Rome, things like that. And we'll just kind of expand. It won't be 20 podcasts on the Pompeii. Might be two or three, and then Coliseum, maybe two or three. So just kind of keep on trucking, as they say. Might talk a bit more in depth about the emperors as well, their lives and military victories and stuff like that. My intent is kind of do historical things in relation to this channel podcast, The Portal, but not exclusively historical. The portals, we could go to Mars, or something, talk about Mars eventually. So the key to all of this, as far as going forward, is content. Where do I get the content at and put together? So other places, it just depends on how easy it is. I don't have a lot of time to develop a lot of content, so because we do have 11 YouTube channels, so there's quite busy there. So yeah, so this is kind of hosted these two podcasts, the Portal with Bob Colbert, and the table talk. The table talk's geared more toward today, time frame, culture, entertainment, sports, any kind of, it's a talk, like table talk, and could include politics. I'm trying not to do politics, but today on the table talk, I think we'll continue talking about the Fannie Willis situation. The judge, Scott McAfee, did come back with a ruling a week or so ago, that that special prosecutor Wade had to leave, or Fannie Willis had to leave, but basically separated. So Nathan Wade, if you're interested, did in fact resign as special prosecutor, and this left Fannie Willis to remain still in place as the district attorney. So I don't think that the issue has died down any, because there's other courts and other situations that may come back, and you know she may have some difficulty going forward. So anyway, apparently the case against Donald Trump and the 18 others defendants will continue on this. This was the election issue, where they're trying to say they stole the election on there. That remains to be seen, because there's no court ruling on that. It's just right now just brought before a court into a trial situation. So yeah, so we'll pick it up as to where that is, and then just kind of go with it. All right. Well, we're coming up on 30 minutes. So I've enjoyed doing the Roman Forum. Hope you did. I think the highlight of it was, I think, the 3D model, and certainly I think the films helped. And by the way, let me go ahead and do the video again, because we always do that as a reinforcement. So I'll catch you on the other side of.
Replace Faustus Cornelius Sulla's reconstructed Curia Cornelia, which itself had replaced the Curia Hostilia. Caesar did so to redesign both spaces within the Comitium and the Roman Forum. The alterations with the Comitium reduced the prominence of the Senate and cleared the original space. The work, however, was interrupted by Caesar's assassination at the theater of Pompeii, where the Senate had been meeting temporarily while the work was completed. The project was eventually finished by Caesar's successor, Augustus Caesar, in 29 BC. The Curia Julia is one of only a handful of Roman structures that still survives mostly intact because of its conversion into the Basilica of Sant'Andriano al Foro in the 7th century and several later restorations. However, the roof, the upper elevations of the sidewalls, and the rear facade are modern and date from.
All right. McDonald's coffee. It's very good, by the way. Well, I hope you enjoyed the Roman Forum. We'll still stay in Rome for a while. And I hope you enjoyed the Roman Forum series. If you're ever traveling to Rome and you're near the Colosseum, just kind of look for the Roman Forum. Just walk over there and kind of explore that area. And hopefully this was helpful. You always have the podcast to go back to review. You got the videos; those are helpful, and you do your own research. But it's certainly worth going to see. It's very historical, and it's really amazing to be able to witness. Now, a lot of the buildings are not there; it's burned down, destroyed. just time took its toll on the environment, flooding, fires, so a lot of it's gone, but there are some remnants of the buildings, and it still functions even today. Well, I'll call it a day. Thank you for joining us on the podcast. I hope you have a great Saturday, and we'll see you next week for the Theater of Pompey and Julius Caesar. Y'all take care of my friends. See you later.
What you do, you want to me, but I can't let it go so easily until I see what